feel the power?
Oh, I can feel it.
Our moment of triumph approaches! It's
GrokTALK.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now, at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
GrokTALK.
All right, welcome back to the GrokTALK News Read. Same as the first hour, because we'd like to be consistent. Governor Rick Perry is running for president, but for how much longer? Perry political director Dante Vitagliano has left to work for the Kasich campaign, and other staff have similarly jumped ship in pursuit of paying jobs with other campaigns. Governor Kasich, by the way, is regarded as the winner of the Governor Sununu This Is Who the Money in New Hampshire Will Back lottery, and the people pulling the strings of the NHGOP machinery will be his unofficial sponsors. The party cannot, of course, officially endorse any one candidate in a primary, but the state insiders get how this game is played. So what about Jeb? The conspiracy says that the Walking Dead candidates like Huckabee, Graham, and even Kasich were all brought in by the Rove factions to protect Jeb Bush by keeping other more viable candidates from building more momentum. Bush has the long-haul money, and insiders suggest that Kasich, as governor of Ohio, is likely to get a VP nod if Bush were to get the nomination, at which time the New Hampshire party machine will bow and give homage to the anointed ones. Voters, however, have a different narrative lined up. Trump, Carson, Fiorina, and Cruz are polling better in early states, and while the operative word is early, there is well-defined movement away from the establishment herd. Dan Toohey at the Union Leader is reporting that the Draft Biden Super PAC, or is that the Daft Biden Super PAC, is ramping up around the country, preparing for when or if Vice President Joe Biden announces a campaign. Dan Eaton, a state representative from Stoddard, will be a state chairman in the Granite State. Additional staff hires are anticipated later in September. More than 200,000 people have signed a petition urging Biden to run. Daft Biden advisors Josh Alcorn and Brad Bauman, who were in New Hampshire on Wednesday, say the PAC is focused on building the political infrastructure in the event of a Biden candidacy. Groktober will be upon us soon, and to celebrate, GrokTALK is taking to the road. On Groktober 3rd, we'll be broadcasting live from the Federalism Forum at Southern New Hampshire University in Manchester. Groktober 10th finds us live from the Republican Liberty Caucus Convention at the Crowne Plaza, Nashua. And October 17th, we will be trying our hardest to bring you a show from the 603 Alliance Grassroots Selection Caucus in Hopkinton, New Hampshire. The October 17th event is a gathering of the grassroots activists, Republican and Republican voting undeclared voters, to rally behind a single free market pro-Constitution candidate. In the run-up to the New Hampshire February 1st in the Nation primary. This historical event gives Granite Staters an opportunity to be counted and to avoid having their vote diluted in such a large field of candidates on primary day. Details about the caucus and pre-sign-up form are available at 603alliance.org.
GrokTALK comes live almost every Saturday morning from 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. You can also listen live at Spreaker.com. If you missed a live show, catch up with the podcast at GraniteGrok.com, Spreaker.com, on Stitcher Radio, at iTunes, TuneIn, or iHeartRadio, and now on The Rock, New Hampshire's Christian radio station, TheRockNHCR.com. GrokTALK is a mobile-ready broadcast, so you can listen anywhere, anytime on your PC, laptop, tablet, or smartphone.
GrokTALK. GrokTALK.
3,
welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
GrokTALk.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of GrokTALK. Excuse me, I am Steve McDonald here with Skip Murphy, Mike Rogers, and Richard Olson. Hello. We are brought to you by the Granite Grok crew, most of whom are in the room or on the phone, and of course the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. Please check us out on Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and streaming live on Spreaker and Ustream. Also available post-broadcast on all of those platforms and Ustream and YouTube. And now, The Rock, NHCR.com. So, we're moving ahead here. We have more guests, tons of people, and we're always trying to bring you interesting guests and important and connected guests. And today we have one of those people. We have one of the man in New Hampshire, right? And the Trump 2016 campaign, Corey Lewandowski, has joined us. Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning. How are you guys today?
Good.
Hello, Corey.
I can barely hear you.
Corey, you there? Uh-oh. Corey,
you there?
Hey, I'm here.
Okay, there we go. Just
Yep.
making some adjustments so we can hear you.
There we go.
Well, congratulations. Your guy's doing great.
he certainly is.
Yeah, Mr. Trump's wild ride. So how much of this are you the pilot or co-pilot on the ride?
Well, as the national campaign manager for the presidential campaign, not in New Hampshire but across the country, I get to help set the policy positions that we put forth and scheduling and the direction and our strategic initiatives. And, at the end of the day, I am a staff member, as all staff members are, and, the final decisions always rest with the candidate because they're the ones who put their names on the ballot. But I've had the privilege of assembling a team and laying out our strategy and building out where we want to be not only today but moving forward to the convention next July.
And actually, I'd have to say you've done a great job, and we're not surprised at all. We've known you for years, Corey, and we consider you a friend of Granite Grok. But certainly the polls that came out last night, early this morning, show that Donald Trump is beating all of his Republican rivals and now is beating Hillary Clinton all over the place.
Beating them, he's running away with it.
Yes, this is huge, to paraphrase your boss. But so you should be feeling pretty good right about now, even though it's early. That's always the operative word at this time of the silly season. It's still early.
Well, I wish the election were actually going to take place next week. I'd really feel a lot better, to be honest with you. But we got a long way to go. The good news is, I think many people, particularly the political pundits, of which I've never had any affinity to, always said Mr. Trump wasn't going to be a factor in this race. He wasn't going to first file, then he wouldn't do his paperwork, and then he would never fill out his personal financial disclosure statements. And then even if he did all of those things, he wasn't going to be a factor in the presidential race. And I think it is fair to make an unbiased statement that not only has he been a factor in this presidential race, but he is 100% driving the narrative of the Republican race for president of the United States, and people are now following his lead and responding to his issues because they understand that his discussion with America to make America great again is what this country actually cares about. So I love when the mainstream political pundits are wrong. It actually brings me a smile to my face knowing how many of these guys have said Mr. Trump would never be a factor and once again proven them wrong.
Wouldn't you say, in fact, Corey, that the mainstream media, the pundits, and even the GOP itself have lost control of the narrative, and that yesterday's signing was, in fact, a capitulation by the GOP to the reality that Trump was on the stage?
Well, I mean, look, the American people are speaking, right? And Mr. Trump refers to them many times as the silent majority. Those people who haven't had a voice for a long time, the people who are tired of political correctness, who think that, pressing 1 for Spanish and 2 for English is where our country is going and are fed up with it. Yep. And I think what you'll see across this campaign and continuously is that regardless of which poll you look at when it relates to Mr. Trump, his support is so broad. It's not just with what used to be termed the Tea Party coalition, of which I have been a proud member, as you know, but it's with moderates, it's people who are self-identified as liberals, it's with people with high education levels, low education levels, high income bracket, low income bracket, white collar, blue collar, it doesn't matter. What it shows is that this country is so fed up with a broken Washington. Congress has an approval rating in the low single digits. People want something changed. They want to be proud to be Americans again. What is so bad about that? That's what I don't understand. Why is it people take offense about the fact that he wants to make our country great again, to make us winners again, to create value, to bring our standards back down where we don't spend more than we bring in, to simplify a tax code? And we get, the mainstream media wants to go after Mr. Trump and say, well, these are radical ideas. Is it a radical idea to build a wall to prevent illegal immigrants from coming in and killing American citizens? I don't understand why it's so difficult.
It's interesting, Corey. I'm talking to a lot of people in the course of the week. Rick Olson here, by the way. And I'm talking to people that haven't voted in 20 years, And they're telling me, yeah, I'm supporting Trump. And these are people I know, I've talked to because I've run for office. I can't get them to the polls. Nobody gets them to the polls. Their opinion is they're all crooks. Along comes Donald Trump. He insults a bunch of people. He works off script, and people love it. It's totally cool, and they're supporting him.
I'll tell you, we were down in Tennessee last Saturday morning for an event down there, and there was a woman, and this has been well documented. She's 92 years old. Her name was Bede, and she had never registered to vote, and she came to the event in Nashville, and she said, "I registered to vote for the very first time because I finally have someone I can believe in." This is a 92-year-old woman.
Wow.
And I saw this in Londonderry 3 weeks ago. Mr. Trump gave a speech in Derry, and there was an individual there, and I don't want to say his name, but he's wheelchair-bound. And he contacted the town clerk and said, "Would you come and help me register to vote at my home? I can't physically get there because I'm wheelchair-bound, but I want to register to vote so I can support Donald Trump." This is not an anomaly. This is happening every day. His appeal is exceptionally broad, and people want to feel good about voting for someone that tells them the truth, as opposed to all of these politicians who are so polished and are so establishment that want to tell you what they think you want to hear, but never actually get anything done. So we see this every day all over the country.
I mean, you can actually...
Warren.
Oh, go ahead, Tim.
I just have a quick question. So when you peel back all the rhetoric and all the talk and the showmanship, and the words and the Twitter accounts with unpolitically correct things going on, then you have the policy, and that's the substance. And one of the things during the debate that really threw me off was Trump saying that he thought universal health care in Canada was successful, which it's not. What do you do about those kind of things? What's his actual policy and substance behind the man who's, the showman?
So let's look at it, right? We have talked about illegal immigration from day one. From the day he announced on June 16th, part of our platform was to talk about illegal immigration. So then we put out an immigration plan, a 1,990-word immigration plan that is very simple and says, here's what our plan is to prevent illegal immigrants from continuing to come into our country. And then people said, wow, what is your plan on taxes? What is your plan on this? You know what that is? I'll just be honest with you because I'm a very honest guy. That is the media trying to drive a narrative because the rank and file person, the person who lives at 123 Maple Street in Windham, New Hampshire, where I live, doesn't care because it is a bunch of broken promises that politicians put out, these 15 and 20-page or in previous campaigns, 45-page plans on how to renegotiate the tax strategy. Guess what? It's all a bunch of lies. These guys don't do anything. What we have to do is we have to put our faith in people who have a proven track record of getting things done. And here's what it comes down to. It's very simple. It doesn't get any simpler than this. The real question is, who do you want to have negotiating on behalf of you, an American citizen, whether it's with a foreign leader or with Congress, to do what is best for you? Do you want a career politician who's never been able to accomplish anything, that's a low-energy individual, or do you want a person who's actually going to go and say, I've lived this. I know how bad and broken the tax system is, and it's time to fix it. And what we have said is we will put out our tax plan in the next couple weeks now, and all that is, it's a simple outline so people can understand how fundamentally broken our system is, and we need to do something to fix it. But I don't think the average person, maybe I'm wrong, I don't think the average person wants to read a 45-page policy plan on what Mr. Trump's position is to reform the IRS, because candidly, nobody cares. All they know is the system is broken and they want it better. And I think that's a reasonable thing to say.
Corey, this is Skip. You know who we are and what our interests are and what drives us. One of the things that we've seen with the Obama administration is that they want to do whatever they want to do. They are progressives to the max in the idea of FDR and Woodrow Wilson. There is no limiting factor to these folks, including Obama. They don't care about the Constitution. Now, Mr. Trump's going to be, he's been saying he's going to do a whole lot of things, and that's good because I think you're right. People want America great again, and they've seen us go down in their eyes in a whole lot of ways. The question is there a limiting factor to his viewpoint of what federal government should do? And you know where we're asking that question from. Does he believe that there are things that the federal government should no longer do and get out of and not go into stuff that it shouldn't?
Absolutely. What we know first and foremost is that states' rights is paramount. Right? That should always be the case. But more importantly, the basic premise, and I will speak to this personally because I've lived this for a long time, is smaller government, less regulation. I said it when I was the state director of Americans for Prosperity in New Hampshire, when I became the regional director and oversaw 25 states for those guys, and then I took over the whole nation and did their voter registration and got the vote efforts. Smaller government, less regulation is the path moving forward at every level that we can possibly have it at, which means local control. Number one, look, Common Core is a disaster. The fact that we have bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., who are trying to tell our children in my community and yours what their education standards need to be, and there are numerous presidential candidates who fundamentally believe that that is the right thing to do, and it's wrong. Then we have a whole series of presidential candidates who you know who believe the expansion of Medicaid is a great idea, the Obamacare state level, right? There are candidates in this race right now who think that that's a great thing, and as governors of their respective states have taken money to allow it to be implemented at their own state. It's wrong. That's not the role of the federal government. It's time to take and extract the federal government from the day-to-day lives of the people that are here every day. There is a role for the federal government. You know what it is? Homeland security. Protect our nation, right? Make sure people are safe in their homes. Make sure we've got roads and bridges that people can drive on so we can get from A to B with a reasonable way of giving that money to the states and letting them decide. But at the end of the day, the bureaucracy in Washington is so out of control, it's so unaccountable, that the only way it gets reined in is by having an executive and a group of people around that executive in the corner office of the White House that says, I won't tolerate this anymore, and it's time to change.
Corey, hang on. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. This is GrokTALK.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now, at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
We are GrokTALK. We're on the phone with Corey Lewandowski, National Campaign Manager for Trump 2016. I have Richard Olson in the room with me, Mike Rogers at the end of the table, Skip Murphy, and Kimberly Morin is on the phone with us. Mike had a great question that he wanted to ask.
Sure. So in yesterday's presser for the pledge for, actually I think it was Thursday's presser for the pledge to loyalty of to the Republican Party, it wasn't so much the pledge that got my attention. It was this: I pledge totally to the Republican Party and to the conservative principles for which it stands. Your words or his, Corey? Gotta ask. But that was fabulous because they won't say it. They don't say it, and they don't live it. And the Donald said it, and I applaud him.
Well, it's about, what the principles are supposed to be about in the Republican Party, which is conservative principles, which is about smaller government, lower taxes, less regulation. And look, I don't want to make any derogatory statements or belittling statements about some of the candidates that are in this race for President of the United States, but they will go out and tout their conservative values where they think it's appropriate, but their tenure as a chief executive of their state or maybe in the U.S. Senate is very different on those principles. And so Mr. Trump wanted to be very clear when he got up and said what he said, and was very clear that, you know what, the only way to change this country is to actually get elected, and the best way to do that is to run and win as a Republican, because I fundamentally believe, and I wouldn't be here if I didn't, that if we don't do something very soon, we're going to hit that $20 trillion debt number or $24 trillion, and we get to a path of unsustainability, and we're already going that way, as you know. We're getting killed on these trade deals. This deal with Iran is a complete and utter disaster, and nobody is doing anything about it. So I think, he wanted to be very clear about what his beliefs were, and made sure that was the case when he spoke on Thursday.
No, you won't say it, but I will. I mean, the bottom line is if you've been following Granite Grok for any amount of time, you're going to see we've been hammering on the establishment, the squishes, the rhinos. They tell us one thing and do another, the John Boehners. That's why that resonated with us, that statement.
And in state too, and that's why I wrote it, because we have said many times on Granite Grok that the problem we have with our Republican legislators and Republican leadership is that we have a party, we have a platform, the base and the delegates approve the platform, and they don't live it. They won't stand up for it. And if they would just hold to the platform, we'd be in a much better place.
Well, guys, this goes back, I'm a state guy, you know this, right? I went and fought this Reggie fight, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative fight, which was part of the party platform, and you had the Senate president at the time, the highest-ranking Republican in the state, saying, I don't care about the Republican Party platform, I'm in favor of this instead. They say one thing and do something else. This is the problem with career politicians, guys who are bought and paid for by special interests, guys who are looking to cash out from their job as a state senator or a state representative to go and get a payday somewhere at the end of the road. See, that's the fundamental difference with Trump. He can't be bought. He has so much money, he can't be bought. He doesn't want special interest money. He doesn't want lobbyist money. He doesn't want multi-million-dollar contributions, which I have been there when people have said, we'd love to find a way to give this to you. He says, I don't want your money. I don't care for your money. I can't be bought. Jeb, from Jeb to Rand to right down the line, they all have to go out and spend 80% of their time raising money from special interests and people that want favors from them down the road. And that is a fundamental broken problem of our electoral system right now.
No, I think you're absolutely right, but I also think that what we're talking about right now, I think the ordinary voter has seen this too often, where I was lied to by New Hampshire State Senator Jeb Bradley. No, we're not going to implement Obamacare. And the next day, the presser came out that they were doing it. They wanted to call it something else, but that's what it was. And I've seen this happen all over the nation, Corey. And I think the statement, and you know this from having a master's in political science, nature abhors. Nature and politics abhors a vacuum. And I think Donald Trump has come along and said, there's a disconnect here, and in his business savvy, he sees there is a profit to be made politically, and I'm putting it, mixing business and political terms. He sees an opportunity, and in that it's sort of like Fox News. They saw that half the nation was being underserved with their news. He's doing it politically, and more power to him.
Well, that's right, and I think what you see is people say, a leader. I want a leader. I want someone who's going to stand up, tell me the truth. You know what? We get it, right? We understand we are not as good as we used to be as a country, unfortunately, and we're getting killed on our trade deals and on our immigration deals and so many other terrible things, currency manipulation across the world. Let's get somebody who can actually try and fix these things, because we've tried this story with politicians We've tried it with guys who have been career elected office holders. We've tried it with governors and senators, and guess what? It has failed time and time and time again, because at the end of the day, they're all beholden to the special interests, and they don't necessarily do what is best for the country. They do what is best for them, and that's the problem.
Kimberly.
Yeah, I have a question. Corey, so previously, and Trump has talked about that, he was the special interest buying and paying for politicians, which he talked about. So the question I have for you is, since he did that before himself, and he tried to have the government force people off their property with things like eminent domain, what makes people think, or what can you say about Trump that makes people believe he wouldn't try to do that again as a politician?
Well, so see, look, when you're a businessman, right, or woman, and you've got an exceptionally successful business, you've got people who donate to both sides, particularly if you're in New York, right? You give money to Republicans, you give money to Democrats, because at the end of the day, what you want to make sure you have is access for your business. That's the way the system works, so that if you need a favor, that person is there for you. So Mr. Trump has given literally millions of dollars to politicians over the last 15 years to make sure that if he ever wanted something, they were there for him. And that's how the system works. Here's the difference. If somebody wants to come and give Mr. Trump $2,000 for his presidential campaign, I don't think anybody in their right mind is going to think that he is going to say, wow, I owe that person a favor. It just doesn't happen, right? Because he's spending his own money, millions and millions of dollars of his own money, let alone all of the money he lost from endorsement deals because of running for president, which is in the tens of, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. He doesn't care about the money. He doesn't want people's money. Every other person in this race on both sides, Republican and Democrat, are going to go out and they're going to make promises and they're going to say things to their donors and they're going to tell those donors whatever they want to hear so they get the checks. They can be bought. Trump can't be bought. He won't be bought is the difference. And that's why the American people love it, because they're sick and tired of politicians who are bought and paid for by business owners and special interests. And Trump's the only guy who can't do it.
So, Corey,
and I totally get that, and I get the paying both sides and supporting both sides. So that's not even an issue for me. My issue is he used the government for eminent domain to force people off of their privately owned property for his own personal gain. If he's the president, what's going to stop him from not doing things like that when he actually has the power of the government firmly in his hands?
So, I think Mr. Trump has been clear that if he were to be elected president, he would completely extract himself from any business obligations he has. He said his children, who are now Ivanka and Donnie and Eric, are, in their mid to late 30s, and he would have them running the company. He would put all of his interest in a blind trust to make sure that he has no personal interest in anything that takes place, and he would only do what is in the best interest of the government and not be involved with any of his businesses. Look, he filed a personal financial disclosure statement that shows he owns over 500 different companies. And so, he has a vast portfolio. He does business on 5 separate continents and has made $10 billion. So, that's how he has built his company, by taking advantage of politicians in the past. He always says, look, if you can't do a good deal with a politician, you're the only guy on the planet, because they always make bad deals, right? And that's the truth, because these guys, in general, in broad terms, don't understand how business works, and they just kowtow to their wealthy donors because that's how they get reelected. And that's what's wrong with our country.
Corey, I got to jump in here because we're running out of time. Could you give us some contact info real quick?
Sure. DonaldJTrump.com is the best place to go. It's the website, DonaldJTrump.com. The office is in New York. We've got an office in Manchester. We're about to open 2 more offices here in New Hampshire. We've got a great team. I'm happy to be back in Windham today to see my family and spend some time in the Granite State. So thanks for having me, guys.
All right. Well, thanks so much for being on the show.
Okay.
All right.
Care.
We'll see you. Bye-bye. All right. This is GrokTALK. We're heading into our next segment. Everybody hang on. Hold tight. We'll be right back.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now, at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Croc TV.